Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly. Today we are doing my October reading journal video. This video has been a long time coming. It has been a doozy to make. Did you enjoy my new little intro? I made the drawings and the animation, but my husband actually made the little jingle for me. He played it on the piano and then brought it into my computer and put it together. So I just think that is so cute and so sweet. So I hope you like it. One of the main reasons why this video has been so difficult for me to make and has been so not timely, I was gonna say so timely, but so time consuming, is because I read 9 books in the month of October. And that is the most books that I've had to journal about at one time at all, ever. So that took a long time. Also, it is my favorite month of the entire year. It is my birthday month, and I just love everything October. And I know that's kind of like a thing, like a lot of people really love fall, and I love that because, you know, the more that society buys into it, the more that I feel special. But I really wanted to go heavy into the spooky October theming in this month. So I definitely indulged in the spooky Halloween vibes for most of these spreads pretty much. For this cover spread though, I really wanted to focus on this Marigona Suli art sticker. Look at this girl. Look at this jack-o'-lantern and the cats and the ghost. Like everything about it is so immaculate. I love it so much. I bought 2 of these because I was like, I don't even know if I can stand to not have a backup. So that's what I did. Like I said, I read 9 books this month, so we're gonna have a lot to talk about. I cut it down quite a bit. It's still the same kind of length that my other videos are, but I'm hoping that I'll still have time to talk about all the books because some of them I don't have a ton to say. I'll talk quickly about the other reason why this video has been such a long time coming, and that is because I am a scientist and engineer at an agency in the federal government in the United States. And if you know anything about what's going on in the US right now, it is very tumultuous, and especially working for the government, that has been quite chaotic. And so I am back in the office 5 days a week for the foreseeable future, which is totally like, it is what it is. I can't sit and complain about it because there are so many people who have always had 5 days a week in their jobs. So like, what am I gonna get on the internet and complain about it? Whatever, it is what it is. But that has taken a lot of time out of my telework days. So I used to work on Mondays and Fridays at home, and my commute to my job is about, like, on a good day, it's about an hour. On a really bad day, it's like an hour 20, hour 30, which I know sounds insane, especially if you don't live in the US. Like, it is the way it is. And my husband and I bought our house way before I got this job. So that's just the way it goes. But I do have a carpool commute. So like I get to talk and hang out and have fun on my commute. So it's not a big deal, but that is like an extra like 3 hours in the day that I am in the car instead of at home working on videos or working on reading or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So even outside of work hours, it's just a lot of extra time going towards my job that wasn't going towards it before. Does that make sense? Because of the commute? Anyway, that is a little life update about where I've been, but let's go ahead and talk about books, okay? So the first book that I read in October is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This book is about a character named Olivia who has grown up in sort of a boarding school type environment, but I think it's also like an orphanage or something. It's kind of not clear exactly what the school that she goes to and lives at is, but all she has of her past life is a journal from her mother. And throughout the journal, it seems like the mom is sort of unraveling into some kind of madness or something like that. At the beginning of the book, Olivia receives a letter inviting her to come to her family home called Gallant. So she leaves her school and goes there. But when she arrives, no one at the house is actually expecting her or sent the letter. And the story sort of revolves around Olivia's experience at the house and her experience with her cousin Matthew and the people that work and live at the family home. There's quite a mystery going on about the home and her family, her parents, and you sort of just follow Olivia as she tries to unravel this overarching mystery. Okay, so this book was sort of one of those experiences where it was a 5-star read for me, and I really enjoyed my time reading it. I like the characters and I love the poetic writing style that V.E. Schwab went for, but at the same time, it's not the most memorable book for me. I always feel like there's kind of these 2 camps when it comes to 5-star reads for me, and it's like ones that stick in my brain forever, and then ones that were 5 stars in the moment and I loved them, but I haven't really thought about them since. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay keeping that system. I don't think that needs to knock out a star or anything. I don't think you can stick every 5-star in your head and keep it there forever. So I think it's okay to have some 5 stars that are really great books in the moment, but you don't like keep hold of them forever. You know what I mean? In your mind. Like, I don't remember every single thing about this book, but I remember so much about some of my other favorite books, if that makes sense. I had been meaning to read this book for almost 2 years, and honestly, more than anything, it just really cemented the fact that I really, really like V.E. Schwab's writing. She just has this poetic style, which of course is my favorite, and I think I will just always love a vibe over anything else. It can carry a book so far for me as a reader, and I think that this book is just proof of that. I don't think that this is an overly groundbreaking story or a mystery that had me on the edge of my seat or any kind of horror that had me sweating. It was just like a nice young adult spooky haunted house book that just gave me the perfect October vibes. And I think that's all I needed. I recommend it if that's the kind of book that you're looking for, especially in like a spooky month or anything like that. I think this is a great pick. It's not like if you've always kind of wanted to get into mystery horror, but you're like uncomfy with it, like me. I can't sleep if I am too freaked out. So something like this that just gives me the vibe, but not the actual spooks, I think is fantastic. So also this really, really adorable spooky sticker sheet is from Fifi Puffs on Etsy, and I highly recommend it. These are really high quality stickers. They're like really thick and not in a bad way, but just like, I don't know, they feel really high quality and I like them a lot, and the print quality is fantastic. So I highly recommend Fifi Puffs on Etsy. Oh, also the other thing I wanted to mention is that you cannot go wrong with the audiobook or the physical book for this. I kind of did like a little tandem read where like sometimes I was listening to the audiobook, sometimes I was going physical, and sometimes I did both at the same time, and it was just wonderful. The physical book has like ink drawings in it because that's part of the story, which are beautiful, and the audiobook actually has like some sound effects in it, and there are parts of the book where you're reading the physical journal that her mom left behind for her, but there are moments where there's lines being scratched out with pencil, and they actually have this sound of the pencil scratching through the lines in the audiobook, and it is just like a very satisfying spooky vibe. So I highly recommend both or either. You really can't go wrong with either the physical or the audiobook. Moving on, we are going to talk about 2 more books that have been on my TBR forever, and the first one is called The Wicked Remain by Laura Pohl. This is the second book in the Grimrose Girls series. I read the first book all the way back in, I think it was 2022, and I actually really loved it. I was surprised by that because I kind of picked it up on a whim on Libby, but I really enjoyed it. So I went ahead and picked up the second book pretty soon after that, but then that one took me a while to actually read it. So this duology is about a group of girls that go to a boarding school, and in the first book, they kind of start to realize that their lives are eerily similar or have certain parallels with fairy tales. I usually don't like fairy tale retelling stories anymore. I used to when I was younger, but they have just not hit for me in years. But this is not really what that is. And so I appreciated that, and I liked how the first book went about the fairy tale elements. And I think it ended up just being a really fun mystery type story for a young adult audience. I felt like it was mature enough for that audience to get their hands into and just not too childish. There are multiple POVs in both books where you follow each individual girl, and they're all in a friend group together, and they're figuring out a mystery, and a lot of like bad things happen, but you also watch their friendships grow and their relationships build. And I just think it was a really well-rounded first book. Unfortunately, the second book was just not as compelling as the first. I think the first one had me more on the edge of my seat with the mystery, and sort of these like horror-leaning elements were just really interesting to read about. This one didn't really have me questioning much or aching for this mystery to be solved or wondering what was going on. I just kind of followed the girls as they went through their story, and I just watched it unfold in front of me. I didn't have any feelings towards it, and I'd almost rather hate a book than be uninterested in it, I guess. It was also a little more cheesy than the first book. I think the first one did a good job of balancing the fairy tale elements without making it corny. But this one, I think there were too many moments where, you know, they were just like, you're the villain. And it didn't work for me. It was much more corny. It didn't have the same shine or originality to it that the first one did. Fortunately, there is a lot of what seems to be pretty decent queer representation in the book. So I think that's good, especially for a YA book. And being set at a boarding school is always really fun. So overall, just kind of middle of the road. I gave this one 3 stars. Then I finally read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I had also been wanting to read this for years, and this was the year that I finally did it. I don't think I'm going to go through the synopsis of Frankenstein because I feel like most people know the story. I mean, I guess I could quickly say, like, there's a guy named Frankenstein who wanted to use electricity to see if he could animate a corpse or bring it back to life, basically. And he created what he calls the monster. And you follow Frankenstein and you follow the monster story, and that's it. I thought that I had read a lot of this in high school, if not all of it, but now I'm thinking that I definitely didn't. I think I probably got to the part where the monster is watching this family like live their lives, and I guess I must have felt too sad at that point, so I just quit reading it or something. But because of that memory, I fully expected to be sad and like teary-eyed reading about the monster and feeling all this sympathy for him. But in all honesty, I didn't really feel that way at all. It wasn't that sad. It wasn't that scary. It was definitely too long. I can't believe that my copy is only 166 pages because it felt like a 350-page novel. I can't remember if I had seen people say that their favorite part is the monster's perspective chapters or if that was their least favorite part, but that was definitely my least favorite part. I thought it would be really interesting, but in reality, the story told through his perspective drags on so long. And I know that it's nitpicky for a 17th century sci-fi novel, but the monster's progression in knowledge and language just absolutely made no sense to me whatsoever. I just feel like there is no way that he would have been as eloquent as he was when he was telling Frankenstein his story. The dialogue felt super repetitive, especially towards the end. I do think that I liked some of the quotes about scientific pursuit, and I liked the descriptions of nature. I actually enjoyed reading about Frankenstein's life and how he ended up creating the monster and his depression and his eventual kind of like descent into madness, essentially. But overall, this was kind of right down the middle of the road, like a lot of these books in October were, and I will most likely never read this again. I think I can appreciate it for what it was at the time and what it meant to literature and society in that period of time. So that's kind of the only reason why I gave it 3 stars. It was right down the middle, and also I think it is culturally significant, and I enjoyed getting to be a part of that, I suppose. So 3 stars for me for Frankenstein as well. Not much to say about the decoration on this spread. I kind of used a hodgepodge, but I did use this Beauty and the Beast themed sticker sheet from Artimation Co. on Etsy. So that is kind of the focal point for these spreads. Next up, I read A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. This one I just picked up from the library for fun because I kind of read 3 heavier books in a row and I wanted to just like have a fun time. This book is about Mariel, I assume is how you pronounce her name, but I've never heard that name out loud before. I think I've only ever heard Muriel, but that's definitely not her name. Mariel is part of a powerful witch family, but she kind of doesn't have as many skills in spellcasting as her family would expect, but she's really skilled in things like baking, brewing potions, and gardening. She has a lot of pressure from her family to be good at spellcasting though, and she, towards the beginning of the book, has a spell go wrong and unintentionally summons a demon who is now stuck with her until they make a deal for her soul. And it's like a little love story between the witch and the demon. I said that I was looking for something fun and cute, and that is exactly what this was. This was so cute. I had a really fun time with this one, and I just kept wanting to pick it up, which I think is a good sign. It did slow down for me a bit once they actually got together, but the mystery of how they were going to get out of their situation and solve their problem actually did carry the plot enough for me. It happens so rarely for me that a side plot of a romance novel is interesting enough to me to hold its own in the story, but I think I'm realizing after reading this book that because the mystery is directly tied to them keeping or losing their relationship, it totally works for me. Usually I'm bored by side plots because, in my opinion, it just distracts me from the romance itself, which is the main reason why I would pick up a romance novel. But this felt like a side plot that fed into the main plot instead of distracting from it, so I just really enjoyed that. I thought Mariel was a super cute main character, and Oz was the perfect grumpy demon. I unfortunately kind of hated Mariel's friend Calladia, I think is how you would say that. I think she just came off kind of hateful in my mind and not a friend that I would really want around, but there was a fairy friend that I loved. I do know also the second book is about Calladia, and maybe that one kind of redeems her a little bit, I'm not sure. There was definitely a silly, like, third act breakup that I think could have been skipped or been replaced with a more impactful, maybe climax to the demon deal issue. I think the author could have made it harder for them to solve that problem and make them think that they're gonna have to really sacrifice their relationship or maybe one of their lives or souls, instead of making the climax of the story be all about her just like not trusting him, basically. Any other romance book could have that plot line as its major conflict, but this story has this huge advantage of the demon stuck until they make a deal plot line, and it could have been capitalized on so much better. I don't think it needed to fall back on romance tropes because the story already has this unique twist to it. I think the spicy scenes were a little bit cringier than I would have liked. I did get kind of a slight ick from it. Not like nose scrunching up ick, but just a slight one. So all of those things I think kind of dropped it down in the star rating for me, but I had a really fun time regardless, and I will probably pick up the other books because I think they would just be really fun, quick reads. So I gave this one a solid 4 stars. And as you can probably tell, I am using Marigona Suli art stickers for the spread, and I think that they just go so well with this purple and yellow theme of that cover, so I'm really happy with how this spread turned out. It might be one of my favorites this month. Mango has decided that he belongs in my office chair, so I am having to sit in a different spot in my office. I could move him, but this is easier. But I'm holding my microphone right now, so if that changes noises or there's some thumping or I don't know, whatever, it's because I'm holding a microphone that's meant to be sitting on a desk, so apologies, but I guess the cats come first. Next up, I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Lori Gilmore. So this is book number 2 in the Dream Harbor series. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe was book number 1. So I read that earlier in 2024 and I loved it. So I was really excited to pick up this next book as a October, like fall vibe read. Okay, there's cats causing chaos, of course. I may just have to deal with the extra noise, so sorry if there's cat noises in the background, but I feel like I say that in every video, so what does it matter? This book is about Hazel and Noah, and it's just a small town romance. Not much else to say. It has some like opposites attract, small town, forced proximity type of themes to it, I suppose. Hazel owns a bookshop in the town and Noah is a fisherman. I'll go ahead and say I did not like this one nearly as much as book 1. It took me like 2 days to completely forget what the plot was about, and so I had to read the synopsis again to remind myself. There's this scavenger hunt aspect of this book where there's like little clues in the books of, oh my gosh, there's a motorcycle outside. What is happening? Everything is devolving into chaos. There were these clues in the books of Hazel's store, and I just don't think that this scavenger hunt like book clue thing was very well done. I didn't find it interesting or exciting. I just knew it was going to be embarrassing somehow. So I just kept feeling myself waiting for this other shoe to drop, and I hated who it turned out to be. I don't know why a person like that would do that. It just seems strange. I don't know who it should have been, but I just think maybe it shouldn't have existed at all. I don't think that these books really need a mystery in them, but I'm worried now after reading the second one that I think all of them will have one. I think I liked Hazel and Noah enough, but I wasn't like head over heels with them as a couple. I don't know why Noah kept accepting things that he didn't want, and he never even tried to communicate his feelings to Hazel. He just like went along with whatever she wanted. However, the main thing that I am upset by, which may seem really small, but hopefully you all would resonate with this. I have no idea why the cover of this book is fall themed. There are fall, like orange fall leaves floating all over the cover of this book. And yet this is 1000% a summer romance book. There's dialogue in the book where they literally keep saying perfect summer. This should be the perfect, I want this to be the perfect summer. Why would you trick me like that? I saved this book for October. Like, what? It shouldn't be a big deal probably, but I just feel like marketing really matters, and they marketed this book as a fall book. For who? Like, for what benefit? It just sets readers up to think that they're going to be reading like a cozy fall romance, and it turns out it's like mid-July. For why? Why are we doing that? It could just be marketed as a summer book. I don't know if they were like piggybacking off of the success of the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which was definitely a fall book, but I don't know. It was like, no, thank you. No, upsetting. I was really mad by it. I was like in the depths of October reading this book. Like, why am I reading about these two people having the perfect summer? What's happening? So anyway, it just wasn't my favorite. I didn't love it, but I did capitalize on the fall cover to make a really pretty fall spread. So these stickers are from Artimation Co. Overall, I liked this book enough. There was nothing objectively wrong with it. There was nothing that I disliked a lot about it except for the things that I already mentioned. So yeah, I gave this just 3 stars right down the middle like everything else. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the next book. So I picked up Morbidly Yours by Ivy Fairbanks. This is a romance book set in Ireland, and we're following Lark and Callum. Lark is a cartoon animator from America, but she's staying in Ireland next to the funeral home that Callum runs. Lark is going through a period of grieving after losing her husband, but she doesn't want anyone in the town to know that she's lost her husband because she was kind of running away from this aura of sympathy that was kind of floating around her in her hometown in America. And Callum has been left the funeral home by his grandparents in their will, but there's a caveat that says he has to get married by the age of 35, and his 35th birthday is quickly approaching. The worst part of that, though, is not the time crunch, but the fact that Callum does identify as demisexual. So he has a really hard time connecting romantically and sexually to somebody else if he doesn't already have a really deep emotional connection to them. This is probably going to get into rant territory, but I'll try to keep it short. I am so disappointed in this book. I cannot believe how much I hated this book by the end. I absolutely hated the way that the author portrayed Callum's sexuality. I am not going to sit here and pretend like I know everything there is to know about demisexuality. I am not an expert by any means, but it just does not make any sense to me that all it would take for a person who's demisexual to become like hypersexual is just the right bubbly personality to come along, and like within a few days of knowing them, you're all of a sudden just fantasizing about their body. And if I am right about that, then the people in this story are awful to Callum. His grandparents for forcing him into a marriage, awful. His friend Saoirse for immediately after he says, I don't know what I want, saying, well, I know what I want, and then kissing him without his consent, awful. Why would a friend do that? Don't do that. And lastly, Lark is just a horrible person. I just cannot understand how in the world I'm supposed to want a happy ending for her. Understandably, she is in a period of grieving her dead husband, but she decides not to tell anyone in this town that her husband is dead. Totally fine. She's trying to get away from the sympathy. Okay, I understand that. But she also has this rule that she is never going to get married again. She decides to not tell Callum either of these things, that her husband is dead or that she has no interest in getting married ever again. And yet, she knew how Callum felt about intimacy, and she easily could have gathered, or did gather, that he had an emotional attachment to her, and she exploited that for her own sexual benefit. She, knowing all of this information, she knows everything about him, he knows nothing about her, she purposefully, knowingly seduces him, and then demands that he make no attachments to her romantically, but she gives him no clue as to why. He has no idea why she feels that way. I really thought reading the beginning of this book that I had it figured out. I thought Lark would open up to him about her husband, he would comfort her, they would begin to form an emotional romantic attachment, and then they would get more intimate. Absolutely not. She has sex with him way before ever telling him anything about her dead husband. He has no idea that she is grieving, and he moves forward with intimacy with her, still believing that maybe she would love him and want to be together. She is cruel. That's just so cruel. There are other scenes that show her immaturity and her cruelty, like she leaves him at the beach without any ride just because she started freaking out. There's this ending gesture that she does that is so unromantic, and the author easily could have switched it to a moment where it shows that she grew immensely and was willing to sacrifice all of these things for Callum, and yet it was just a loophole, and I don't understand why. The only reason that this book has 2 stars for me instead of 1 is because I really loved the environment of Ireland, and I loved that he taught her Irish words throughout the book. I really liked Callum's character, except for the fact that he kind of let everyone step all over him, but yeah, that's why I got 2 stars for me, and that is it. Next up, I read We Ride Upon Sticks by Quanberry. This book is an odd one. It is set in the coastal town of Danvers, Massachusetts, which is like Salem Village, right? The Salem witch trials, if you know a lot about American history, or even a little bit. And the story follows a group of girls on a high school field hockey team. This book is kind of so odd that I don't really have much more to say about the actual synopsis, but they basically get into like witchcraft kind of to win their field hockey season. This was another one that had been on my shelves for almost 2 years. The anticipation for this one kept building, and so I was really hopeful for it, but I was excited for the oddness of it. I knew this was going to be a really weird book, but I don't think that the weirdness really made up for the fact that I just felt like nothing happened over the course of the entire story. I kept feeling like it was building to something. There were these foreshadowing statements constantly that made me think that there was some big climax coming, like maybe they murdered someone, or maybe they destroyed something massive that was like irreversible, like some irreversible act. And yet I don't think there really was anything worth building up to, basically. So I don't really have much else to say. There are some moments where like I feel like there could have been some, shocking event or shocking like reveal, and it just kind of like petered out in my opinion. I felt like the ending still kind of had nothing happen. I felt like it was anticlimactic. I just felt like it was this little piece of life for these girls, these very, very weird girls. And I love that, but I wanted to love it even more. I wanted the story to really catch me, but it just didn't. It kind of fell flat for me personally. Not my favorite. I know a lot of people really like this book because of how weird and just odd it is. I do love that it's set in the 80s. I think that's really fun, and it was enjoyable to like kind of read the pop culture of that time, that kind of thing. So I did enjoy that. But other than that, it was just kind of like a meh book for me. And unfortunately, I also gave this one 2 stars, which I didn't despise this book the same way that I despised the one before, but it just kind of wasn't anything to me. And so that was kind of it. But I do absolutely love this spread. These stickers from Mushy Works are so cool. That ghost with like the heart pattern sheet over it is just perfection. I love it so much. Also, I didn't mention it, but the stickers in the last spread for Morbidly Yours are also from Mushy Works, and I just think that spread is absolutely immaculate. Like, in my opinion, one of my absolute favorites in the whole journal is the Morbidly Yours spread. There is like a quilt washi tape that I put down from Mushy Works, also just beautiful. So I really like that spread a lot. Look how grimy my journal is getting. Oh my gosh. Okay, we are getting there, I swear. This is the second to last book. I told you I read a lot of books this month, okay? But we're getting through it. We're doing it. This book is The Supernatural Enhancements by Edgar Cantero. So I believe this was originally published in Spanish, and it has been translated into English. This claims to be kind of a horror, mystery, gothic ghost story, basically. And I would say that it is that. I don't really know if it has a lot of horror elements to it. There's like some supernatural elements, obviously, with the name and everything. And I never noticed that there's a giant eyeball on the cover. That never occurred to me until this very moment, looking at it right there. So that's gross. I honestly don't really remember much about the plot of this book, if that says anything, but I do know that there are these 2 characters, a guy named A, it looks like. I just had to look it up. And then his companion, quote unquote, Niam, who is a mute teenage girl with, quote, shockingly dyed hair. When was this published? Okay, it was published in 2014. It's not like that was weird. Okay, whatever. But A and Niam inherit this estate called Axton House, and they go there. It's in Virginia, but they are European. And so they move into this house in Virginia, and weird stuff starts to happen. They find out about these like mysterious disappearances and suicides, and they start to feel supernatural things happening, like maybe ghosts and stuff like that. And so you're just kind of watching them unravel these mysteries that are surrounding them at the house. So this was another like really odd book. Maybe not as weird as We Ride Upon Sticks, but it was definitely odd. For the first half, I was actually tempted to like DNF this book. It was way too wordy, overly descriptive. The character dynamics were really weird, but eventually there were some like ciphers and clues that kind of got me more interested, which is kind of weird because I feel like that's not something I would have thought I would like. I guess I was in this mindset that I thought this was going to be strictly a haunted house story. So I was like, I don't know, I was pleasantly surprised when there was an engaging mystery involved. And I thought that the pacing of the reveals of the mystery and the supernatural elements were really interesting and kind of unique to anything that I've ever read. There's going to be a couple spoilers here, but I think it's worth like some trigger warnings. I do not think that they needed to make the ghost a slave girl who was SA'd in her lifetime. I think that's gross and unnecessary. I don't think they needed to make Niam underage because there were a lot of weird romantic elements between her and A, who is a grown man. So that was weird and gross. And there's also an essay scene involving Niam, who is, again, underage. It's really, really gross. So I did not like that. Other than that, I thought it was a decently interesting spooky season read. I like the reveal in the epilogue. There's a nice reveal there. It was set in the 90s, which I thought was really fun. There's a lot of 90s tech in there. Niam is a techie girl, and I think that was fun. I don't know if I really liked the fact that she was mute. I think it just added more helplessness, like manic pixie dream girl kind of vibe to it with her being 17. It just was, or maybe even younger. I don't know. I didn't really like that. So I don't know. There were elements to it that I did really enjoy. I thought the ciphers were really fun. I thought the mystery was well done. Another motorcycle? Are you kidding me? Still, there was just enough about it that I didn't like that it brought it down a lot for me. Well, a lot. I mean, I gave it 3 stars, so which is not bad, but I would honestly, I'd consider it to be kind of a low 3 for me. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the final book that I read in October. I read this the night before Halloween. This is Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca. I purchased this book for myself for my birthday. My birthday is like 4 days before Halloween, so I went and bought it for myself and then sat down all cozy and read it the night before Halloween. So loved that vibe. This book is set in a small coastal town in Florida that really relies heavily on tourism. So the people who live in this town, Boneyard Key, claim that it is a haunted town, but the new girl Cassie is not convinced. There's also Nick, who is the owner of the Hallowed Grounds coffee shop, which is a fun name, and he lives above the shop as well. Nick and Cassie do not hit it off at first because Nick assumes that Cassie is a tourist, and for some reason this man who lives in a coastal touristy town absolutely despises tourists. I thought that this was a really quick and easy romance. I had a really good time reading it. It's actually set in summer in Florida, so it didn't have the spooky season vibe that I thought it would actually, but there are ghosts. So spoiler, probably not really a spoiler. There are ghosts, which was Halloween enough for me. I thought that Cassie and Nick were really cute characters. Their friends in town were really fun and nice too. It kind of almost had like a Gilmore Girls vibe to it, but not quite because they weren't like weird enough, but definitely had a fun small town vibe to it. I could definitely see myself reading more books in this series. It was also nice to read about ghosts that weren't just creepy, like pervy guys like in the other books that I've read this year, if you've watched my other videos. Although I will say the topic was grazed a couple of times, so it was skirted around. There were a couple ghosts named Elmer and Sarah that I really loved, and there were some moments that I actually did start to tear up, so that's kind of interesting, like a nice lighthearted romance making me get some tears in my eyes. That's a good sign. The only thing I didn't really love was what I mentioned before, which was Nick's disdain for tourists. It just felt kind of unnecessarily mean for like a sweet love interest in a book, like a romance novel, you know what I mean? So that's all. The decoration for this spread is all over the place. We've got some Marigona Suli art, we got some Artimation Co. My mom brought me this like cat washi tape that I put up top from Japan, and I love it so much. This grid washi tape I also love. Let me look and see where that's from. That is from an Etsy shop called Latoon, and I really, really like the stuff that I got from their shop, but that like deep brick color grid washi tape is one of the things that I got, and I love it. That is everything, my friends. Thank you so much for watching through this video. I think it was kind of chaotic. I honestly don't know. It's all been a blur at this point, but please enjoy all of my spreads that have now been written in and filled out and everything. I have all my little thoughts in there. If you want more spoilers, I don't know, you can pause and read, I guess, but I think I'd be embarrassed if you did that, but you can if you want to. Also, thank you for waiting in between my videos. I know there's so much time in between them, but that's just my life right now, and you know, it is what it is, and I really enjoy making videos, so I probably won't stop. I'm just gonna be the slow video poster that I am. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in my next video. You can, in the meantime, watch back the playlist of videos that I've already posted if you haven't already. But if you've watched all of my videos, wow, thank you so much, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye, everyone.